Greetings and salutations, folks, and welcome once again to another helping of Mr H's Hot Pot. You join me today for day 5 of the UK lockdown, where I'm currently sat in the old jalopy on my own driveway. That wall that you can see in the background there, that forms part of my house. Now, the reason I'm making my daily vlog from the old jalopy today, sat on my driveway, and I'm not out and about in nature, is because I've already used up my daily allowance and my daily quota of exercise for the day by going out and having a bit of a family stroll with Mrs H, my son, and of course our family dog. Now, I've got to be honest with you, Hot Potters, I haven't really enjoyed the family stroll. Not because I don't want to be with my family. That's not the case at all. I love being outdoors with my family. It's because the little area that we went to, which is a little bit of a green space, not too far away from where we live, was heavily populated. Every man and his dog was out today. And where I've been going out and about in the open spaces and getting away in the countryside, and I could count on one hand the number of people that I've passed. And indeed, when I have passed them, I've been quite a safe distance, and more than a safe distance away from them. Today, I lost count after 30. I could have passed up to 100 people in close proximity, because obviously we was walking down the canal, so we're on a towpath where you've not really got much room to pass one another. Some people tried to keep the social distance as much as they could. Others weren't bothered. It was as though it was up to you to make the effort to keep away from them. And this is the problem with this social distancing. You've got some people like myself who came up with the idea of getting in your vehicle, driving to an area of the countryside that wasn't too far away from your own, but was far enough away from people and keeping that social distance. And the police came along and stopped it, didn't they? They released a statement a couple of days ago stating that you should not be using your vehicle for that purpose. Now, it turns out that one or two people and self-appointed watchdogs, for want of a better term, have pushed back and have said, you know, really, police should not have been stating that, because after all, it's not law that you're not supposed to use your vehicle for exercise. It's only guidance and advice, and you can't police guidance and advice. You can only uphold the law. So until it becomes law, you're no right saying that. Now, I think the police will back off from this for a couple of days at least, but I think it'll be a short-lived victory, because I think the government will make it law, you know, to protect the police so that they can make their job easier. And I don't wish to run the police down in these videos. When all's said and done, there's good police officers and there's bad police officers. It's all down to the individual who's having to deal with it and their interpretation of it, as always, isn't it? And I'll always guarantee that the two parties, when you've got a police officer who thinks an individual is doing something that they shouldn't, and the individual who is doing perhaps something that they shouldn't do, the two will never be on the same page, will they? So, folks, what has day 4 brought? Well, day 4 brought Boris Johnson, didn't it? He's brought him, he's gone down with the coronavirus by all accounts. And in a Tales of the Unexpected type twist, seems he has unwittingly infected various parts of his cabinet. Matt Hancock's got it, who's the health secretary. And I believe the chief medical officer, who's been giving some of these daily briefings, he's showing symptoms as well. So potentially everybody who was in that press conference, which I watched a couple of days ago, they've got it, you know, because they wasn't doing it via conference link, was there? There was so many people packed into a room, and they was all sort of in close proximity to one another. So I think if you was at that briefing, you'd be rather worried now, wouldn't you? I'll just take another quick swig, keep the old whistle wet. Sometimes, I mean, I like a drink of pop every now and again, but sometimes you can't beat just pure water, can you, really? So, yeah, a bit of a tale of the unexpected there from Boris Johnson. Now, I have a lot of time for Boris Johnson, I'll be honest with you. I'm not saying I slavishly follow him as a Prime Minister, but I think he's been a welcome change in number 10 after Theresa May. You know, she was useless as a Prime Minister, if we're being honest. So I think he's been a welcome change. But what fool goes round to an hospital, which he had done in the early days of this outbreak, and gone and met patients who were suspected of having this COVID-19 and shook hands with them. I know he said he washed his hands afterwards and all that, but I think that's where he's picked it up, to be honest. And I know why he's done it. He's done it because he didn't want another PR disaster like he had back in February when there was all those floods from the storms and the heavy rain that we'd had. So he probably thought to himself, I'll show my face this time, I'll knock myself about a bit, and I'll go to these hospitals and I'll have myself photographed with these patients and show that I care. And it's come back and bit him on the bum, hasn't it? So he's now in self-isolation and he's running the country from a video conference. We'll see how long that lasts. In fairness to him, I did watch the video that he put out there, and he didn't look well, did he, in honesty? You could see that he was under weather. So I hope you get better soon, Boris, to be honest, and well wishes to everybody at this moment in time who's struggling with this virus. I mean, there's people left comments on my videos who said they don't think it's a real thing because they don't know anybody personally who's got it. I think that's a good thing if you don't know anybody that's got it, and I do think it is a real thing. Let's be honest. I don't think it's some conspiracy. I want to keep away from the conspiracy stuff myself personally because it's a rabbit hole, and once you go down it, you can end up anywhere. The only concerns I have really is the police and the authorities start using this as an excuse to basically curtail British way of life. I have been sort of mildly criticised in one or two of these vlogs for not being positive. I'll be honest with you, Hot Potters, the potential of being locked up and cooped up for 23 hours a day is not a positive experience. It's a shit experience, to be honest with you. But it's a bit like a tooth extraction and going to the dentist. That too isn't a good experience, but it has to be done, and that's the way that I'm viewing it. I dare say we will learn positive lessons from this COVID-19 business. Hopefully, many of us will cherish and love our liberty all that bit more when we get through this, rather than taking it for granted. I know I certainly will. And it'll also teach us, with a bit of luck as a society, a bit of humility. And we'll start thinking of others rather than ourselves, especially people who have been living in isolation for years through ill health or the fact that they're old and things like that. Because let's be honest, not many of us have given them a second thought, have we? We've been that busy and wrapped up in our own daily lives and the trivialities of daily life that we've not been giving people who are isolated and probably live only a few doors away from us. We've not given them a second thought. With a bit of luck, we'll start doing that once we pull through this. For a few months at least, and then we'll dare say society will fall back to its normal ways. So, folks, have any of you out there got any ideas of how to keep your spirits up? During this outbreak and this enforced period of having to stay indoors. I mean, what I'm trying to do to keep my spirits up, and it's difficult if you've got children. I mean, I'm pretty lucky, really. Toby will be 16 months in about a week's time. So he's too young, really, and, you can give him an empty crisp packet or an empty box and he'll find that interesting. But if you've got children that are older than that, they've reached that age where they're easily bored, I should imagine it gets very, very difficult trying to keep them occupied. So it's difficult. And I think the mainstream media as well, the newspapers and that, rather than going for the big headlines, X amount of people have died today, new powers to come in, lockdown will last for 6 months, etc., etc. Rather than going for the big headlines to try and sell the newspapers, they should take some responsibility in this national crisis and say, what we're going to do is we're going to keep the nation's spirits up. We're going to give people ideas and things like that. I think that's what they should do rather than trying to score points. The biggest people that I'm disgusted with is the people who have tried to use this outbreak as an excuse to stall or even cancel Brexit. You guys out there who are trying to use this, you're lower than a rattlesnake's belly for that. Just accept what's happened and pull together as a nation. That's what these people should be doing. Of course, they would quite happily see the country crash and burn just to be able to say, I told you so, with a smug look on the face. Well, folks, we're coming up to 10 minutes here, so I'm going to wrap this one up very quickly. Hopefully, I'll be able to get out tomorrow, and I'll be able to go to my usual spot. I'll be up at a Sparrows Fart tomorrow, and I'll go to my usual spot to try and keep out of contact with people, because today has not only not been as enjoyable, I've been quite anxious, to be honest, because that's what's setting in there with a lot of people. You know, you're seeing people on streets, total strangers, and you're trying to keep away from them. And it's getting to the stage where you won't even say hello on the streets. That's not a good way for society to go. Anyway, folks, I'll leave it there. So until tomorrow, which will be day 6 of the UK lockdown, it is bye-bye for now. And as always, stay safe.